Good Sunday morning, everybody. ABC 10 meteorologist Brendan Minchev here with another Hurricane Hilary update, although more accurately, it is now Tropical Storm Hilary as of the 8 a.m. National Hurricane Center update. As we take a look at it on satellite here, it is looking less and less like a tropical system. I mean, it still has that rotation, but you can see it's really front-loaded. All that rain is on the north side of where the eye was, where that center of rotation still is. It's just not as easy to see. We'll zoom in a little bit, but you can tell the heaviest rain as of about 10 o'clock Pacific time this morning, the heaviest rain still to come for Southern California. So if you're sitting in Southern California around lunchtime today and you're like, oh, this is kind of a dud. We're not getting all this rain. We're not getting all this wind. Not the case. The mountains of Southern California, center's not even there yet, and they're already recording winds of 60 miles per hour. And again, the heaviest rain is still to come. So you got to give it time. This is an all-day Sunday event winding down overnight Monday. And by Monday afternoon, we'll be into the assessment and cleanup phase. Talk more about that in a second. Right now, Hurricane Hilary, I should correct myself, Tropical Storm Hilary, again, as of the 8 a.m. update off the Baja coast, will be making landfall in Mexico on its way to Southern California. The worst of the storm will happen this afternoon and evening for Southern California. That's when the winds will be strongest, the rain will be heaviest, and the flood risk highest. For Northern California, our impact today still comes on Monday, but we will notice that today's a bit of transition day. We'll call it a tropical transition day in Northern California, especially this afternoon into the evening. That wind shift will change. We'll have northerly winds in Northern California for most of the afternoon and evening hours before we get that wet, humid, and rainy southerly wind that develops overnight Monday and continues Monday morning. So here's where Tropical Storm Hilary is now, again, right off the coast of Baja as of about 10 a.m. Pacific time. And you can see that tropical storm warnings continues into Southern California as we stand. The heaviest rain, strongest winds are still to come. Now, this weakening has been expected. This does not change any of the forecast for Southern California. Cannot stress that enough. This does not change anything. We have expected this weakening for days. We knew that Hilary would be moving into cooler water. We knew that it would be interacting with land when it got to this point. The weakening was expected. The impacts that we've been talking about for the last couple of days are absolutely still the same. It started off in 86-degree Fahrenheit water. Hurricanes need 80-plus degrees to sustain themselves. Over the last 24 hours, it's moved into 70-degree water, now currently sitting at about 73-degree water. By the time it gets towards San Diego, that water temperature is about 68 degrees off the California coast. So much, much colder. That is why we've seen this rapid weakening. And again, as it interacts with the land, and especially the high terrain of the Baja Peninsula, it is really weakening that storm. So we got two different factors here, the colder water and the terrain impacts as well. So as we look at the spaghetti models, now I want to stress that as the storm deteriorates and we kind of get different little centers of rotation within the broader rotation itself, what can happen is these models start to diverge a little bit more than what we've seen when we had a well-defined eye, well-defined center of rotation. So as we look at these models, it might look like, there's not as much consensus. That's not the case, and I'll show you why. So obviously, really good agreement that still within the next 12 hours, really more like the next 8 hours or so, we are going to be seeing the center of that storm in Southern California, likely right near and overhead of San Diego. Now, that's when you start to see the divergence happen when we get towards Monday. The point of the spaghetti models, I don't want you to focus on these two right here. That, again, is not the point of the spaghetti models. The point of looking at all these is to say, where is the cluster? You know, where are the majority of the models hinting that the storm is going to go? And so, obviously, it's pretty clear to see it is right here into western and even maybe more central Nevada. Right here. This is where we're expecting the storm to take its path as it works north on out of California into Nevada. We're not looking at individual runs. We're not looking at this one. We're not looking at that green one or the white one here or this purple one. Certainly not this red and orange one that takes it into San Francisco. This is an outlier. This is bad data. We would really pretty much just throw that away. I'll step in front of it. Now you can't even see it. This is the consensus that we're looking at here. Moving into Nevada, that's what we expect to happen. So the forecast for Northern California, because the consensus remains on track, our forecast remains on track in Northern California as well. Tropical storm warning continues, obviously, because they haven't even had widespread tropical storm force winds yet down in Southern California. Flood watch also continues, not just for Southern California, but for Arizona, for Utah, for just about the entire state of Nevada. This continues on up into northern Idaho, parts of Oregon, and even parts of southeast Washington state as well. So this is a widespread tropical event with a lot of rain to be dumped over some pretty dry areas, especially the case in Southern California. Here's what radar looks like. And you can see it has already been raining. We've already had rain in and around Southern California for the last 24 hours or so. But certainly that rain's starting to become more widespread, starting to become steadier with the heavier stuff still to come. So, again, if you're sitting in Southern California at about lunchtime today and you're like, I just don't see it, I don't understand, there's still more to come. The center of the storm is going to move on. That's move overhead, and that's where we're going to see those strongest winds and the heaviest rain. Here in Northern California, we've had some very, very light showers, maybe some sprinkles even in the valley this morning around sunrise. They're around Elk Grove. Now they're a little bit more out towards Vacaville, Fairfield, and then towards Santa Rosa as well. Maybe some stuff up in the high country. This is just the beginning, though. Our better rain chance is overnight Monday and then for the Monday morning commute as well. So let's talk the storm timeline for Southern California. So this morning, tropical storm force winds will arrive likely around 11 a.m. or so, definitely through the lunchtime hours. During the afternoon and into the evening, that is the main event. So heavy rain, strong winds, the greatest flood potential as well for Southern California. So hopefully, if you're watching from Southern California, hopefully you are in your safe place. You're going to stay there all day long for the duration of this event, and you're not going anywhere because, again, we are expecting urban flooding. We're expecting rural flooding, stream flooding. So it's important just to stay home, especially when we get those winds and the really heavy rain. That's going to reduce some visibility and make for hazardous driving conditions. Just better to stay home today. Overnight, Sunday into Monday, those remnants move on out. We'll have some lingering storms, but for the most part, it is going to come to an end Monday morning. Certainly by Monday evening or Monday afternoon, Monday evening, that tropical threat will be over. So then it's on to the assessment phase, on to the cleanup phase, and just see how things fared in Southern California. So today for Southern California, this is your time. This is the time right now, today, Sunday, that you are going to see these tropical storm force winds, the heaviest rain, and the greatest flood potential. Tomorrow, things wind down early, and by the afternoon, we're cooler than average, but a more typical day that you would expect down in Southern California. But I can't stress enough the flood potential. The novelty of the tropical storm and the tropical storm force winds gets a lot of the headlines, but the really important takeaway message here is that flooding is going to be a problem. Level 4, high risk for the deserts of Southern California, and that is a 70% chance at least of seeing flash flood conditions in this area. That's why you had that wide swath of green when we showed a minute ago of that flood watch for Southern California and even up into Nevada as well, where there's that level 3 moderate risk. So definitely pay very close attention to the weather today. This is a multifaceted event, and flooding is, even though it's maybe not going to get a lot of the headlines, the National Hurricane Center is warning of, quote, catastrophic, end quote, flooding for parts of Southern California. And this could include mudslides, could include debris flow as well, especially in burn scar areas in Southern California. In Northern California and in Nevada, our day is tomorrow, especially in the valley. I don't think we're going to see all that much rain, but it's been dry. So ponding on roadways, some ponding on lawns, ponding on some dry dirt. It'll take a little bit for that really to get into the soil. So if we do see some of the higher end rainfall amounts in the valley, maybe closer to ½ an inch, yeah, we could see some ponding, could see just some very minor, very minor, just puddles, really, not widespread flooding. But that's kind of a different story into Nevada, where things are a lot drier, obviously, the deserts of Nevada. So yeah, different story than what we would expect here in Northern California for tomorrow. The other thing that we're keeping an eye on today, again, I told you, that multifaceted event this is, and the thing that we're watching as well is the potential for severe weather. So that's to say nothing of the tropical storm force winds, which of course we'll be paying attention to, but we could get some storms out in the deserts of Southern California in towards about Yuma, Arizona or so, right along the Colorado River. Lightning, not really a concern for the most part with tropical systems. Lightning needs a lot of that updraft. They need a lot of that really strong wind, like what we get in these big thunderstorms that we see. It also needs ice. Because this is a tropical event, there is no ice in the clouds for this hurricane, or for the tropical storm. There's no ice in the clouds. It's too warm of a storm. It's called a warm core storm. It's different. Fundamentally, it is different than how a thunderstorm develops. So that's why lightning is not as big of a risk, and the hail risk is essentially zero, again, because it is not cold, the storm. Unlike thunderstorms where it gets colder with height, hurricanes don't really act like that. It is a warm core storm. It's warm all the way through. Heavy rain, though, definitely something we're watching because of that fact. It is a tropical system. Lots of rain. Talked about that. Winds also, of course, it is a tropical storm, but even locally with some of the local storms that we could see down here, could see a lot of wind. But hurricanes naturally spin. There's already a lot of spin. There's already a lot of physics there that help to get things spinning. So when you zoom into the local level and you talk about some of the rain bands that move through, tornadoes are a factor. And then you add in the terrain variations and the terrain differences in California, and we already know that can help spawn tornadoes as well. So the tornado threat is relatively high today. It is a 5% probability of a tornado within 25 miles of a point in this area. So basically, if you're in this brown shaded area in Southern California, there's a 5% chance of seeing a tornado today. Let's bring it up to Northern California now. The impacts here are very much the same, although we can talk a little bit more in depth about the details. Humidity, it's going to be feeling tropical, especially Monday overnight in towards Monday morning during the commute hours until about lunchtime. We're going to get some very strong southerly winds. We'll look at relative humidity in a minute, but we'll get some very strong southerly winds that's going to push a lot of that tropical moisture up into our area. Rain, 40 to 70% chance in the valley. Really, it'll be drier west of Interstate 5 and wetter east of Interstate 5. We'll talk those details in a second as well. And then the wind, again, northerly this evening, becoming southerly overnight Monday, continuing through the Monday morning hours. So here's the wind. We'll start with this. About noon time on Sunday in Northern California, notice those winds northwest, northwest, northwest. Here's a northerly wind. That's a little different than what we normally see, and that's a hint that things are changing. Not a particularly strong north wind event per se, but anytime we get north winds, these are a drier wind than normal, and certainly in this case, that'll be the case as well. But the window of fire danger is a little bit less because, one, it's not a super strong north wind, and two, the other reason it's a little less is because it'll be immediately followed by a very humid, very tropical, moist southerly wind. And we'll see that wind flip here once we get into the overnight hours. So this is 6 p.m. tonight in Northern California. And then look what happened once we get in towards about midnight, in towards 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Look at that southerly wind across the valley, gusting 25, 30 miles per hour in some cases. And again, this will be a very humid wind as well. So it'll be a warm wind, a very humid wind, and it'll bring the chance of rain with it as well. That continues for most of Monday. In fact, we might not get a delta breeze on Monday. It just kind of depends on the positioning of the storm. The overriding factor, which would be the remnants of Hilary as it passes off to the east, might kind of stamp out that breeze. But in the latest runs, it is kind of showing that we still get that westerly breeze developing yet again. So that'll be something that we'll wait and see. But I did want to point out the relative humidity, right? So this is at 6:30 p.m. today, and notice that northerly wind, right? So that is a drier wind, relative humidities in the 20s and 30%. I've seen some other models that are suggesting we could have relative humidities in the teens and low 20% range. So it's just something to keep an eye on. Again, it does leave a window for some higher fire danger, but look what happens when we get that southerly wind develop overnight. Look at all that humidity that gets pushed in all across Northern California, especially in the mountains where we're going to see that rain definitely early in the overnight hours, around midnight for sure, and then starting to overspread into the valley as well. So it is a brief window of slightly higher fire danger, but again, kind of the plus side that we have going for us is these tropical systems don't have a lot of lightning in them typically, so that's one less thing that we kind of have to worry about. Here's Futurecast. We'll start in Southern California. You can see there's already some decent rain this morning, but the heaviest stuff will be moving in during the afternoon hours as the center of the storm, which is somewhere right in here at this point, as the center of the storm starts to move into Southern California. This is the strongest wind right in here in this quadrant that we'll be looking for, and especially when you factor in the terrain differences there, some funneling effects of certain valleys could definitely see some very strong wind gusts, something to pay attention to. In addition, very heavy rain. Look at Palm Springs. We got these dark red colors here. Again, that's indicating some heavy rain across some very dry earth. And that means we could see quite a bit of runoff in Palm Springs, quite a bit of urban and rural flooding as well. And that's going to apply everywhere in Southern California today. Once we get towards about 5 to 9 p.m. tonight, the rain starts to move up north a little further. So the rain will start to taper. It'll still be raining in the evening hours tonight, but it will start to taper. Center of the storm is somewhere right in here north of Los Angeles. It'll be pushing off to the north into Nevada. Look what happens. That rain is going to start to get wrapped in to Northern California. So definitely rain in the high country, with the heaviest rain off into Nevada, but definitely rain in the high country. Rain showers in the valley, some scattered rain showers. This might be underdoing it a little bit. It, again, is going to depend on exactly where that track is. If it's more westerly, we'll have a little bit more rain. If it's more easterly, we'll have a little bit less rain. I think this does a pretty good job, but I really do expect we will see some more showers during the Monday morning commute. That rain chance continues through lunchtime, tapers off a little bit, then picks back up in the afternoon hours, where we could even see a thunderstorm or two as well with some heavy rain. So heavy rain for us in Northern California will be brief, but possible under any showers and storms that we get that develop. So that rain chance Monday never goes to zero for anywhere in Northern California, but it does fluctuate up and down. Certainly best rain chances overnight during the morning commute and then towards lunchtime for the valley. Then it tapers off a little bit, picks up yet again around 5, 6 p.m. or so. Then by the time we get to late Monday into the overnight hours on Tuesday, that rain chance does actually start to tail back quite a bit. As we talk about rain totals, how much rain could we see? Well, I think we've kind of scaled back the highest end amounts since Thursday, but for the most part, the forecast for minimum amounts has remained on track. I think if you're west of Interstate 5, you're likely going to see less than 1/10 of an inch. Some places, especially higher elevations in the coastal range, could end up with a little bit more than 1/10 of an inch. But in the valley, if you're east of Interstate 5, 1/10 of an inch to about 1/2 an inch of rain is the current thinking here. Again, highly dependent on the track. If it's more westerly, our rain chances and our rain totals are better. If it's more easterly, it's lesser. We'll see lesser totals. But 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Now, Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto, likely closer to that 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch range. You start talking about Folsom, you start talking about Placerville, Grass Valley, then we're talking about those 3/10, 4/10, 1/2 an inch of rain. Once you get above about Placerville, above about Pollock Pines, certainly in the very high country, then we're talking about up to 1.5 inches, maybe even more in the very highest elevations, which will help. That's why those high elevations will help lift that moisture, and it's closer to the moisture source in general. But look, this may not look like much compared to our November, December, January standards, but certainly by August standards, this is quite a bit of rain. In downtown Sacramento, the average monthly rainfall for August is 0.02 of an inch. There's a real chance we could get 200, 400, 600% of that average, and we would still only pick up about 1/10 of an inch of rain. So look, even if we see just 1/10 of an inch of rain, it's rain. We'll take it in August, something we certainly don't see happen very often. As we look the next 10 days in Northern California, really Monday is our impact day in terms of the rain, in terms of the wind and the humidity as well. Tuesday likely still humid, but warming up, and then those remnants will be a piece of history by the time we get to Wednesday and Thursday, and that's when temperatures climb all the way into those upper 90s yet again before a likely cool off for the weekend. Download the ABC 10 Plus app, Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV. It is free, live, local, always on. We got a weather playlist there where we have in-depth forecasts like this one. And we don't just do this for hurricanes and tropical systems. We do this all the time for different sets of storms and other things. We also have weather specials that the ABC 10 team has done, including mega flood and water wasted, talking about the water that we saw in California over the winter, what we've done with it, where it is going. And of course, we have the very latest on now Tropical Storm Hilary on ABC 10 Plus as well. Thanks for watching.